come into our house of hope and love, of peace and justice, of wholeness and healing. Come in where we welcome the certain and the seeking, the long-timers and the newcomers, the beloved and the brokenhearted. All of you can find a home here at Throop, where we go love the world from the heart of Pasadena and from the heart of our homes. Please join me, turn and wave to our friends joining us on live stream this morning. Hello, hello. Today in worship, we think about all who gather at our tables, and we determine how we can share our own seeds of kindness and respect, especially during this election season where there is so much tension and strife. And speaking of the election, how many of you have received your sample ballot in the mail? It is a novel length for sure. And after the worship service today, the social justice team is sponsoring a ballot and judges educational session. It's going to be held in the Fireside Lounge, which is just through those double doors in the back of the sanctuary. We'll have several in-house and out-of-house experts and professionals who are coming in to speak about several of the propositions. We would love you to stay. And if you're joining us on live stream, thanks to Terry Trindler, we will have a Zoom link up for that. And the link to joining it by Zoom was in today's Sunday worship announcement that should have come to you at 6 or 6:15 a.m. this morning. If you're new to Throop, we would love to stay in touch. You can fill out an info card that you find in the pew back in front of you. And as we gather on Sunday, we're reminded that each one of us is a light in the world, and the flame from our chalice symbolizes and reflects that light.
Our time together in worship is an embodiment of the resonance we feel with life. As a symbol of that resonance, we light our chalice with a flame from our candles of hope and witness. Let us remember that we are of our earth. We gathered together, entering our sacred space out of separate worlds. Our community rituals, stories, and songs faithfully connect us to each other and remind us of our relationships of care with all creation. May we share seeds of kindness and respect, of hope, compassion, and strength. We light a second candle to honor the people and ancestors whose lands we now occupy. The land under and around Throop is the unceded land of the Gabrielino Tongva Band of Mission Indian people. May this knowledge and awareness lead us into dismantling systems of supremacies and oppressions. We light a third candle symbolizing our watershed, the Arroyo Seco. May their waters continue to nourish life in our communities. We take a moment of silence, holding all of these in our hearts.
And with hearts full, we turn to our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit. It's in the gray hymnal. It's number 347. And I invite you all to rise and sing out as body and spirit allow, number 347, Gather the Spirit. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Turn to your neighbor and gently welcome them into worship. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun, winter to spring and summer to fall, and chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
there is nothing about us that is not of this earth. We can dream beyond this earth, and our spirits may soar above it, but the vessel in which those dreams and spirits emerged are earth-birthed. And though we may learn to venture far outside our planet, without a healthy earth, we will not get very far. With honor and respect, we pledge this promise to our planet. As members of the family of living beings on earth, we are guided by the Unitarian Universalist principle of respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. With hearts filled with love for it, eyes nurtured by its beauty, and minds ruminating on ways to protect its sacred and scarce resources, we promise to nurture the well-being of all life and of the planet itself. The responsive reading is by John Seuss. Our congregational response is, we restore relationships with all creation, gathering all at our table. Let's practice that once together. We restore relationships with all creation, gathering all at our table. To be of the earth is to know the restlessness of being a seed, the darkness of being planted, the struggle toward the light. We restore relationships with all creation, gathering all at our table. To be of the earth is to know the pain of growth into the light, the joy of bursting and bearing fruit, the love of being food for someone. We restore relationships with all creation, gathering all at our table. To be of the earth is to know the scattering of your seeds, the decay of the seasons, the mystery of death, and the miracle of birth. We restore relationships with all creation, gathering all at our table.
And today's lesson is a mustard seed, a Buddhist parable told by Throop players.
Long ago in India, a young person had a baby. He loved the child as dearly as life itself. One day, the child sickened. Her condition worsened until she died. The parent was beside themselves and refused to accept the death of the child. He ran to all the healers in his village, begging them to give him a potion, something to bring the child back to life. Finally, he came before the Buddha.
I'll get it.
Bring me a mustard seed.
A mustard seed? That'll be easy.
A mustard seed from a house that has not known death.
The person hurried off to the nearest household.
Please, make a mustard seed for a potion and bring my baby back to life.
The neighbor ran for their mustard seed supply, and as they handed it to him, he remembered the condition. The parent hurried on to the next house. It was brought, then the question and the answer. To the next house and the next, and in each house his question was met with the same answer. Finally, the parent stopped. He thought about his child and the sorrow he felt. His sorrow, just like so many people in the village who lost someone they loved. The pain was rising in his heart like a terrible storm, but he knew now that he must let it come. Losing and suffering are as common to people as a mustard seed is to cooking. He returned home and began his grieving.
Thank you, Throop players, for that reminder of the humanity in each one of us. And every week in our Kids Dig In program, we help remind our children about the values of kindness and respect that bind us together. And we have a practice here of singing them into their program. And the words for that are in your order of worship. And we may be doing it a cappella today. Oh, Reynold is ready. So don't go yet, because we have to sing. And for you shall go out in joy. For you shall go out in joy and come back in peace. And come back in peace. Blessed be. Thank you, Carson and Faith, for being with the children's program. Thank you, Reynold, for bringing your musical gifts to us today. We're learning to dance with Reynold today. Malcolm, our musician in residence, is on the East Coast sharing their talent and their skills with people, I think, in Atlanta. And so we have the gift of Reynold. Reynold, thank you for being with us. And today's pondering is Desert Flowers by Manish Mishra Marzaretti. And probably the windblown seed found its way here, to a long, beautiful stretch of land, but to a hot, dry one, a spark of life resting in an unprepared desert. Quenching, life-giving sustenance, the rain, it comes and goes, even if infrequently, sometimes only a drop or two at a time. And the seed begins to take root, possibly alive. But what life is this amidst the harshness? Pocket mice, rattlesnakes, camel spiders, dangers and inhospitality lurk everywhere. One chance encounter gone wrong could bring death to the seedling. And yet somehow the intrinsic invitation to thrive, to flourish, to grow, it finds a way even when there is a struggle. Poking gently up from the cracked, parched desert earth, a beautiful pink 5-petaled bloom begins, spectacularly, impossibly. We are those windblown seeds, our universes longing for life, for thriving, for beauty, even when it's against the odds. And we sing together, "We Are Not Our Own," number 317 in the gray hymnal. And you can remain seated as we sing together. We are not our own, earth forms us, human leaves on nature's moving vine, fruit of many stone, gladly showing all our neighbors we are not our own.
This church is our church. It is our inheritance from our first Universalist elders. And like them, we are its sole caretakers. We support this church in three core ways: our gifts of time, our gifts of talent, and our gifts of treasure. You can give online. The directions are in the order of worship on the website, or you can place your gift in the offering plate. If you are a first-time visitor, please let the offering plate pass you by. Your presence today is your gift. Thank you for supporting our life together. The offering will now be gratefully received.
In a spirit of gratitude, we lift up all of those supporting today's worship service. We thank Steve for running the live stream, Nick, our intern minister, Marissa for serving as our greeter and usher, Carson and Faith, who are with the children's program, Garrison, our coffee and conversation host, Reynold on music, Allegra and Jacqueline for organizing the ballot proposition and judges workshop after the worship service. And before worship, our campus caretaking committee met. When I arrived, they were outside on the sidewalk looking for all the ways rain could possibly permeate our building. Thank you for that gift of your time and talent. And as we pause in recognition for all the ways we support our Throop community life, say with me the words in your order of service. With gratitude for the ministries of this church that hold us and embolden us to love the world, we bless our offering and the many gifts we share. I invite you to take a gentle breath in as we get ready to sing our centering hymn. And exhale. And our centering hymn is number 318, We Would Be One. We would be one. Our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what Take another gentle breath in and exhale, letting your heart and mind and body fully arrive in this space, fully arrive in community with this group of people. And we take a shared breath in and exhale, relaxing our shoulders and connecting with our heart space. Breath of life and breath of love, connecting us to each other, connecting us to all, enticing us into a sacred balance of shadow and light, of twilight and dawn. Our hearts surely know struggle, from generosity to selfishness, from humility to arrogance, from fullness to emptiness. Equilibrium seems fleeting at times. Can we set aside our anxieties, our stresses over so much that is out of our control? Can we be like the acorn, currently in its season of letting go of its familiar branch, resting now on unfamiliar ground? With a fresh perspective, it's possible to gain deeper meaning about who we are and what we know is true. Help us nurture trust in ourselves, trust in each other. May there be a restoration of wholeness to our lives and holiness in our world. For all that is our life, we give our thanks and praise. Amen. Who is worthy of our kindness? Who's worthy of our respect? These questions seem ever more present as we wend our way toward the November election. These tense last weeks as we navigate relationships with friends and family, neighbors, and coworkers. So many of you have shared your own feelings of stress and anxiety about the outcome of the election, about the recent hurricanes, and about the ongoing war in the Middle East. Like the seed, we know restlessness and struggle. We carry competing desires. One desire is to bury ourselves far, far into the earth, only daring to emerge once the election is over and we know what we are dealing with. Yeah, but we have this other desire, don't we? This desire to reach up and out toward the light, toward justice, toward all we know to be true inside ourselves. This desire to chart a way forward that is steeped in compassion and care for all sacred beings. The desire to actively engage, our desire to go out there and do something, anything, just not sit still and watch. And we want to do that something, whatever it is we decide to do. We want to do it in a way that honors the wholeness and holiness of the person we see in front of us. But how do we do it when we disagree with the core beliefs that that other person is carrying? This is one of my own struggles, and I struggle with it because the areas of disagreement, they often seem to come from a real difference in values. Values that are shaped by my theology. And so it feels really, really important. Values like each human has autonomy and choice over what they do with their own body. Values like care of creation, care of this earth, a care that acknowledges the harsh reality of climate change and says, get out there and do something. The value that says we honor a person's inherent dignity, and we don't care what their country of origin is, what their citizenship status is. We want a dignity that honors the fullness of each person, no matter, or maybe even because of, who they love and how they express and understand their gender. When we talk to someone, a friend, family, neighbor, and we hear rhetoric that is antithetical to these core beliefs that really propel us in the world and shape who we are, how can we, should we, stay in relationship with them? Earlier this week, Jacqueline reached out to me by text. Jacqueline is part of the bargaining committee for their union, which is currently in negotiations, pretty intense negotiations, with management. And in the text, Jacqueline very kindly shared this. Whenever I feel myself getting angry in a union meeting, I think, Tara would listen right now. Or Tara would lean in and be curious right now. Jacqueline said, I am their emotional Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, I took that as a huge compliment. And I wish it were true. I've actually been thinking about this a lot. Like, am I really an emotional Obi-Wan Kenobi? I've actually discerned, after careful thought, prayer, and meditation, I'm really more of an R2D2. I am. I own it. And so when I got that text, and before I let myself get puffed up too much and let my ego run away with me, I remembered that it was just a couple of days earlier that I had written quite the email to someone in response to a campaign mailer that came in my mailbox. So it was a mailer that was sent on behalf of a candidate for Los Angeles City Council. And it was a hit piece against the other candidate. And this mailer, you know, it was like red with black lettering, and it had the other candidate in this like weird gray pixelated kind of image. And then it was just filled with accusations that frankly I knew weren't true. I mean, one of the accusations was the other candidate is a socialist, and I was like, please sign me up for her campaign then. Why are you sending this to my address? Hello? Oh, I was so incensed, and I got my computer right then and there, and I sat down, and I got the email address for the city council candidate's email, and I wrote a 4-part email to the candidate who sent the mailer, in which I pointed out every single falsehood in the mailer and reminded them of specific actions that they have taken over the past year or two that to me points to a real lack of integrity. Not very Obi-Wan Kenobi-like, Jacqueline. It just really wasn't. I'm maybe not even R2D2 on that one. It felt really good though. It felt good actually as I was telling you. I'm like hot now, and I'm like filled with righteous indignation. And that's how I felt in writing it. And then I thought about it, and I thought about the 13 years that we have spent together, and I thought about an important lesson I've learned, which is it's not great for relationship to respond when you're feeling really angry. It feels good maybe in the moment. So I read it over again, and I realized that I did not want to put my last name on it. And I didn't really think it was an email that I would feel proud of to share with you all as an example of how to be kind and respectful in a divided world. Israeli poet and author Yehuda Amichai wrote a poem, "The Place Where We Are Right." And it opens with these lines. From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. In the place where we are right, the seeds of kindness and respect have a really hard time taking root. Nothing would bloom amid the lines of that email I wrote. We want so desperately for our seeds to burst into the light, to bear fruit, to be food for someone. We want connection, relationship, love. We want to flourish. We want to be heard. Oh my God, we want to be understood by those around us. I cannot count the number of times I've lamented alongside you, wondering how it is in the world that there are still people who deny climate change. And I have wondered alongside you, how in the world is it that there is this thing in the news and people are believing, and I'm sorry to even give it any amplification from the pulpit, but honestly, that there are people out there eating people's pets. I mean, please. But people believe it. And how is it that people are still tearing down rainbow flags and disrupting drag queen story hours? And that's not happening in Arkansas, where, I mean, it is happening in Arkansas where I came from, but we know rainbow flags are being torn down in Pasadena, and drag queen story hours are being interrupted all over Los Angeles. Here, where on every corner there's a certain sign for a certain candidate running for a certain big election. How do they and how do we live in such completely different realities? And there's times I feel really estranged, but I mean, honestly, also resentful of those attitudes and beliefs. And I feel resentful because I feel like those views are dangerous to a thriving democracy, and I know that those views are dangerous to people who are being impacted by that kind of rhetoric. And who's worthy of our kindness? And who's worthy of our respect? We say here every Sunday, as part of our Throop Promise to Our Planet, that we are members of the family of living beings on Earth. The word kindness originally developed from a root word that meant family, or with the feeling of relatives for one another. And over 99% of our DNA is the same from one human to the next. Surely, aren't we all kin? Yet the seeds of our values, our ethos, our beliefs, they are so different and so varied, and we watch them fall over uncommon ground. How do we make space for differences and disagreements when we understand the values underneath those differences, when we understand them as being prohibitive to our practice of liberating love? Sometimes we think having respect for someone means that we have to agree with everything, or that we have to be the same, but that's not what the depth of respect is about. That word comes from the Latin respectus. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but it means the act of looking at one often, to consider, to observe. And so we are called to respect by tending to one another, regarding each other, considering each other early and often. I respect you. I see you. I am tending to you. The Amichai poem goes on to say, but doubts and love dig up the world like a mole, like a plow, and a whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood. If we pause and if we listen and pay attention, what might we hear in that whisper? What might we hear? Would we hear a sigh of love? Or would we hear cries of grief? Or prayers for survival? We are all connected. And yet, unfortunately, and too often, we don't always find a common ground with those we disagree with. And who's worthy of our kindness? And who's worthy of our respect? I think who is each of us, all of you. remembering that grief and love and a desire to thrive and to flourish, it is something that connects us with all creation. And we are intimately and always, I think, connected with the outside world, with that thing called the internet. So how do we navigate our disagreements? How do we navigate our differences? For me, it starts by humanizing someone in my own circle that holds different viewpoints from my own. For you, maybe it's your coworker who's a climate denier. Or maybe it's a parent who voted for the other candidate the last time around, or the last 2 times around. Or maybe it's your friend who the two of you do not see anywhere, you're not even eye to eye, you're on completely separate continents when it comes to the war in the Middle East, and you fear if you actually talked about it, it would unravel and sever your friendship. But instead of writing them off or deciding, you know what, they really are from a different planet, or that they are ultimately unredeemable, I invite all of us to gently, carefully, with love in your heart for them, with love in your heart for yourself, with love in your heart for our beautiful and tender and hurting world, to remember, look at them and remember, they too grieve. They too love. They too yearn for survival. And try to change your view about the person without trying to change their view about whatever it is you disagree about. There's an organization whose mission is trying to unite people across the political divide. It's called Braver Angels. Maybe some of you have heard of them. One of you introduced me to them, I think about a year ago. Thank you. And Braver Angels believe that the more separate we become, the more tenuous our democracy becomes. And they believe that effective self-government is rooted in people with different opinions being able to stay in productive dialogue. And they promote something called the Braver Angels Way. And it's a statement with multiple points on it, and there were a few that especially spoke to me. One is to be able to state your values freely and fully without fear. And also to treat people who disagree with us with honesty, respect, and dignity. And that when we do disagree, to do our best to avoid stereotypes or exaggeration. To look for common good where it does exist, and if possible, find ways to work together. And then finally, there's this belief that when we disagree, it creates an opportunity for both of us to learn and grow and change. So a few days ago, I was thinking about today's sermon, and I returned to that email that I had so angrily crafted and felt so good about and hadn't sent. It was in my draft folder. So I returned to it, and I looked at it, and I erased it. But what I did was craft a new email with this, like, trying to embody this sense of respect and kindness, staying true to what I understand as important values. And so I named my disappointments and this person's actions. I identified what I thought could be done better in the future, and I invited that candidate to join with me in charting a way forward that was built on respect and kindness, not division, because if we're gonna do this, we need our leaders to do it with us. So it's true, as I wrote that, I didn't feel that same rush that I felt with my initial email, but I felt better. I could put my last name on it. I could share it with you today. And I felt like I was channeling my inner R2-D2 and maybe a little bit of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I considered it a warm-up practice to a day when I feel strong enough and confident enough that I can engage in these tough conversations with people in my circle that I disagree with. And I really and truly believe that you and I, that we can be the change we want to see in the world, and that we can swirl together our seeds of kindness and respect and create a stronger sense of community and build up the common good. Let's do that together. And we sing our closing hymn, which is Be the Change. You have part of the words in your order of worship, but not all, so you're going to need to listen and pay attention when the shifts come in the song, and I invite you to rise and sing out as your body and spirit allow. Be the change. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. A change will come to you. Be the voice you want to hear. The voice you want to hear in the world. You want to hear in the world. Be the voice you want to hear in the world. A change will come to you. Be the light. Be the light. Be the light you want to shine. Change will come to you. And a little bit of change coming in the sanctuary. Some of you were here before the pandemic, and you might remember that we made this amazing Throop circle of care and compassion and love by reaching out our hands to people near us. Rachel says yes. And so I invite you, should you choose to accept this challenge, to gently reach out to a neighbor. And if that feels wrong, just put your hands over your heart like we often have been doing and reach out a hand to someone else. But let's try to be connected here. We'll leave a space for our friends joining us on the live stream. And I love it. See, it's a little bit of a puzzle right at the end of worship to get your minds thinking, how are we going to make this happen? You did it. Our chalice is extinguished. We carry its light with us. I invite you in the coming days to be the change, be the voice, be the light you want to be. I love you all. Go out and love the world. Amen, and blessed be.